ETS has always been, is now, and I believe always will be, an assessment organization that develops and administers tests for people worldwide. We administer about 50 million assessments a year, 50 million, and they're comprised of at least 300,000 test items, 150,000 of which are written new each year.
We need to make sure that the items are relevant to the intended purpose of the assessment, and we also need to make sure that they're fair.
Our social mission is embedded in every item that we write.
It's vitally important that these items are fair because, taken together, they are the basis for a decision that will be made about the person who takes the assessment.
So this is a very complex but extraordinarily important part of what we have always done. And it's why ETS has the brand equity and the reputation that we do in the market, because we are so intent on doing this correctly. It's a process that has rigor that unless you're involved in it, you just don't understand. It goes through, 10, 15 sets of process points. There's a rigorous set of statistical analysis that both pre-testing and then after the test, we look at each item to be absolutely sure that what we design it to do is the outcome that we get.
Before we actually write the item, there are a lot of things we have to think about. Who is the item for? What kind of content, background, or knowledge does that test taker have? What content do we want to try to measure? At what level do we want to try to measure? Do we want to have an item that measures pure recall, an item that measures critical thinking? All of those are the kinds of things that we ask ourselves before we actually start writing the item.
The most important thing for me beginning to work on this passage is that we have an item that asks the student to summarize or to show that they are capable of summarizing the information that's in the passage. And that's the last question in the set.
For multiple choice questions, the other elements of the questions are the answer choices. We need a correct answer choice and only one correct answer choice.
I want to make sure that all the important points in the passage have been covered, that not only are the right answers right and the wrong answers wrong, but that the right answers really represent what a good reader, a competent reader of English, would get out of this passage.
After an item is written, we're ready to review it, and we do multiple reviews at ETS for all items. We do multiple levels of content review.
I will work on this passage, and when I think that it's good or finished, then I will hand it off to another person who independently of me will read the passage, answer all the questions, make whatever recommendations they think that will make this a better test of a person's English ability. Then it will go to a third independent person to review the set. Then it will go from being just a Word document like this to being authored and put into a format where it actually looks like how it will appear to the test taker.
After we do the content reviews, items go through a fairness and edit process.
Because there are different populations that take our tests, we need to be sensitive to the fact that not all terms that are used are familiar to all of those populations.
We care about a person's cultural background, their ethnic background. We care about where they live in the world. We run these items through an amazing set of peer reviews to ensure that we are being fair and equitable to everyone.
Once our items are finished and we've signed off on them, we're ready to assemble them into test forms so that they can be tried out.
This set will be part of a pre-test. About 1,000 test takers will answer all those questions. Those results will go to stat analysis.
We do an item analysis, which looks at how difficult the item is, how the item correlates by itself to the rest of the test.
This is an example of a good item where, as you see, when the examinee's score increases as you move to the right, the probability of choosing the correct option goes up. And for the distractors, the slopes actually decrease and they go down as we go to the right. Now we can move to an example of an item that is not functioning as well. In this graph, you would see that the slope for the correct option stays relatively flat, meaning that less able examinees and more able examinees are equally likely to pick the correct option. And these are kind of red flags for us.
In addition, we do an analysis that looks to see if the item is performing differently for different populations of the same ability.
As you see on this graph, males outperform females by quite a bit. And this is a red flag for us, and we take this item to content experts for further review.
So once we've looked at this analyses, the statistical analyses of the items, we've checked to make sure they're working the way we intend them to work, all of the items that will go into a pool, and then they're ready to be put on a future test. Once the test is assembled, our assessment specialists now review the test as a whole. They actually take the test. They go through each item, item by item, making sure the item is clear, it's appropriate for that test. They look to see that there's not an item here that's too similar to an item later on in the test. They look to make sure there's not an item here that may cue in the answer to an item later on in the test. And they make sure that the overall length of the test in terms of the amount of time it takes to take the test is appropriate. There's the balance of items in terms of the settings that are included, the types of skills used to take the test are all balanced and all meet those original test specifications. After a test is reviewed several times and we're comfortable that it meets all of the specifications, both content and statistical, we're ready to sign off on the test. We certify the test, and now it's ready to go through the production process. Once the test is printed, shipped out to the test centers, test takers have taken the test, data is returned to us, we actually look at the test again. We do a very important look at this stage at all of the items individually again to make sure that they are performing as intended.
So it's not just that we develop 150,000 items, is that it's 150,000 items times 10 or 15 process levels that we have to go through. It's a quality control process that is the most important thing that we do, and we treat it that way.
The world looks to us because we are experts in the realm of test development. And our tests have an impact not only on groups of students, but individual students. It's our responsibility to create fair, valid, and reliable assessments, one item at a time.